Green blessings. I'm so glad to be here with you today. I'm Susan Weed, and I live in Woodstock, New York, in the beautiful Catskill Mountains in the Hudson River Valley. I'm an herbalist. I teach people how to maintain and regain their health using the wild plants that grow all around us. Herbal medicine is people's medicine. It's the medicine of the people, by the people, and for the people. Herbal medicine is the medicine that grows right out your back door. You may wonder, how it is that I got started in working with herbs and teaching herbal medicine? And it all had to do with my daughter needing new shoes. Let me start back a little ways from that. When I was a single mom, I soon realized that I didn't want to do it the way I was being told that I should do it, which was that I was supposed to go out and get a job so that I could pay another woman to take care of my child. That made no sense at all to me. I decided I would rather stay home with my child, and that meant I needed to apply for welfare, which I did and received. And it's adequate, but it's certainly not anything extra. And back in the days when my daughter was young, she's 50 now, back in the days when she was young, shoes were very expensive for children. And I just didn't have the money, and she outgrew shoes like most children do at what seemed to be an enormous rate. I was complaining to a friend one day about my inability to buy my daughter shoes. She wore a lot of rubber boots because they were inexpensive. And this friend said to me, well, you know, Susan, if you taught at this local community college, they would pay you $25 per class to teach, and you could do a 6-class series and get $150. That would buy her several pairs of shoes. And I was really struck with that idea. It seemed great, but I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. I said, I don't think they'd hire me because, you know, I dropped out of high school and then I dropped out of college. I don't have any degrees of any kind. And they said, nah, don't worry about that. They're not interested in your credentials. They're interested in your enthusiasm. You're a very enthusiastic person. If you propose something to them, they'll probably accept you. So I said, all right, I'll give it a try. So I got in touch with that community college, and I said I wanted to teach about whole wheat bread baking. I called my course, The Best Bread You Ever Ate, You Make It Yourself with Love. And we had a really good time. And it was a very successful class, and they invited me to teach it again the next semester. And they also said to me, you know, a lot of people are asking us about mushrooms. Do you know anything about mushrooms? I said, well, I actually know a lot about mushrooms. They said, would you teach a class on mushrooms for us? I said, hey, no problem, sure. So now I have a bread baking class and a mushroom class. Whoa, we're going beyond shoes. I could buy her a dress. And then next semester, they said, we want you to teach the bread baking. We want you to teach the mushroom foraging. And people are asking about homesteading. Could you do that? I said, yes, I could teach homesteading. So one of the weeks of the homesteading curriculum was about herbal medicine because I consider it part of the skill set of somebody who wants to live off the land. Meanwhile, I'm driving to town one day, and beside the road is a woman who appears to be, I don't know, maybe 11 months pregnant. She's enormously pregnant. Of course, you can't really be 11 months pregnant. And she has 2 huge bags of laundry with her and a baby that she is holding. So I do the only thing that one can do in such a situation, which to stop, put her, the baby, the laundry in the car, and take her to the laundromat, do her laundry with her, and bring her back home again. What else could one possibly do? Well, of course, we got to talking while we were doing the laundry, and it turns out she was really interested in plants too. So we started forming this little friendship around the plants. Now, this is back in the 60s, and she was married to a nice enough man, but he'd come home after work, he'd put his feet up on the coffee table, demand a beer, and say, house is a mess. What do you do all day while I'm at work? She's got 2 babies in diapers. Come on, what does she do all day? Well, he doesn't know. So she says to me, I'm going to kill him. I said, no, don't kill him, come on. You may feel like you're in jail, but if you kill him, you'll really be in jail, and it won't be fun. I said, you just need some time away. You need to leave him with the kids for an hour or 2. She says, he'll never go for it. Won't happen. I mean, she and I used to go to consciousness-raising meetings together, and she would say to him, can I go to the consciousness-raising meeting with Susan? And he would say, are my shoes shined? Is my shirt pressed? Are my clothes laid out? Is my breakfast ready? Is my, the whole thing. And people look at me now and they say, come on. I say, no, this was normal in the 60s, and it was a fine marriage for the 60s. So she said, he's not going to let me get out of the house like that. I said, what if you made money? She said, Yeah, if I was making money, I could. I said, good, you're going to teach at this local community college. She said, I can't teach at a community college. I don't have any degrees. I said, but you're enthusiastic. She said, what will I teach? I said, I don't know. She said, herbal medicine. I said, that's a really good idea. They don't have anybody teaching herbal medicine. You should do that. So she got in touch with the college, and the college said, sure. And this was in May, and she said, all right, Susan, you and I are going to have to study hard now. So every day, she and I and our 3 girls went out with our books. We identified plants. We harvested those plants. We made things. People soon stopped dropping by around dinner time. One soup, well, it didn't taste so good, but it was a great floor cleaner. So we learned a lot. May, June, July, August, and by September, she was ready to teach her first class in herbal medicine. It was an astonishing success, mostly at home. Because when she got home from teaching that class, he knew what she did all day long. And their relationship really became much better. She taught the class again the next semester, and then summer was there. And she and her husband decided they were going to build a camper on the back of their truck and go off adventuring. Their relationship had gotten really tight and delicious. And I said, well, I'll really miss you, but have a great adventure. 2 weeks before her herbal medicine class was due to start the following September, I got a phone call from her, and she said, we found paradise, and we're not coming home. So what do you mean you're not coming home? I mean, obviously friendship wasn't going to get her home, so I tried guilt. I said, you have a class starting in 2 weeks. You have to come home. She said, I'm not coming home. It's not going to happen. I said, what are we going to do about your class? There's already people enrolled. She said, you'll have to teach it. I said, not me. I cannot teach a class about herbal medicine. Not going to happen. Forget it. We'll just have to cancel. She said, no, you're going to teach that class. She believes, and we're still in touch to this day, that her real purpose for being here was to get me to teach that herbal medicine class. And here I am, all these years later, still teaching herbal medicine. What a surprise. One of the reasons that I say herbal medicine is people's medicine is that the vast majority of people already know how to use herbs. Many people already know if they chew some parsley, it'll make their breath smell good. Many people already know that garlic is wonderful for the cardiovascular system. Most people have eaten basil pesto. So right there, we already have 3 herbs that people know how to use. The vast majority of people, if you ask them to point out dandelion, they could point out dandelion, that bright yellow flower in the spring, those lion tooth leaves, they can recognize dandelion. And dandelion is one of the most generous of the plants. Any part of dandelion, harvested any day of the year, and prepared in any way at all, is effective medicine. Wow, you don't need to know much of anything to start using herbal medicine. Ewell Gibbons used to teach people about eating wild foods, and people would say to him, Ewell, you're going to poison people, you're going to set them out there, they're going to eat the wrong thing and die. And Ewell said, no, you learn plants one at a time, and you work with what you know. Many people say to me, you know, I use mostly traditional medicine, and I say, no, you don't use traditional medicine. You use modern medicine. Traditional medicine is what I do. And it can be kind of scary for people if they've used conventional modern medicine their entire lives. That's what they're used to doing. If they have a problem, they go to the drugstore, they go to the doctor, they buy a drug, or they're prescribed a drug, and they depend on using drugs. And the idea of using herbs instead can be off-putting or kind of scary. How do we know they work? How do I know it's safe? How do I do it? How do I use it? And these are really valid questions for each one of us. One of the things that I suggest that people do is to start with what grows right around you. What grows outside your back door? Are the violets blooming outside your back door in the spring? Is the dandelion blooming there? Do you have garlic mustard growing? What is in your garden? Do you have chickweed growing in your garden? Is there yellow dock in your garden? Is there burdock by your garden? All of these are medicinal plants and edible plants as well. There are over 10,000 different plants currently used worldwide in herbal medicine. Some of them are quite dangerous. And small amounts, some of them even touching the plant, can give adverse reactions up to, and including death if they're misused. But the vast majority of these plants, as we've just talked about, like dandelion and garlic and basil, are plants that are already in our diets and are really quite safe to use. That's not to say that we couldn't have a very strong effect. There's a certain way that parsley can be used to terminate a pregnancy. Basil also can be used in that way, but there's a specialized preparation. The way that we usually use them is not going to do that. So what I suggest is that we first bring the plants in from our gardens, from our byways, as additions to what we're already eating. Can you add a little chickweed to your salad? Can you add a little garlic mustard to your salad? Once you start doing that, you start to get into being with the plants and noticing the plants and experiencing what it is to have more plants in your life. We've been asking Americans for close to 50 years to eat more plants. What we say is eat more fruits and vegetables. But I think that's somewhat off-putting to people. And I think eating plants is perhaps a better way to say it. Even as little as one dandelion leaf in your salad will change what's happening in your body. It doesn't take a whole lot. Now, a drug is one substance, and it has a direction of action. So if I give you a drug because your blood pressure is high, that drug should lower your blood pressure. In an ideal world, that's all it would do, is lower your blood pressure. But the drugs most commonly used to lower blood pressure are diuretics. And those diuretics leach potassium out of the body. So it not only does what it's supposed to do, but it does this other thing, which then causes us to have to take another substance to make up for what the drug is doing. In fact, the current statistic is that more than half of people over the age of 50 in the United States are now taking 5 or more drugs on a daily basis. This is an awful lot of drugs, and it is, as we have just said, often that we take a drug to counter the side effects of that drug, and then another drug to counter the side effects of that one, and so on, in an endless kind of quest for health that we can never quite establish. An herb works in a very different way, because an herb is a complex combination of hundreds of different constituents. And those constituents work in a way in which the whole gives a greater effect than any individual parts taken out of it could be. So the drug doesn't have a direction of action, it has a sphere of action. The drug works directly, the herb works in a global fashion. So if you were asking me what herbs could be used if you had high blood pressure, I wouldn't prescribe an herb because herbs aren't prescribed, they're not drugs, but I would invite you to become friends with a common herb in most gardens, which is motherwort, Leonuris cardiaca. Leo, of course, is the lion and cardiac is the heart. So this is the lion-hearted plant. A tincture of the fresh flowering top of motherwort is tremendous for helping the cardiovascular system to find that good place of blood pressure so that the blood pressure is neither too low nor too high. This is very confusing to people who use drugs because they're used to a drug having this direction. And if I say, oh, well, if you have high blood pressure, you can take this. If you have low blood pressure, you take the same thing. And they're kind of scratching their heads and can't quite figure out how that could be. And this is because the plant has within it things that are constituents that are in movement with each other so that it acts with your body to bring about a greater state of health rather than pushing your body to achieve a certain number. And this is what the drugs are about. The drugs are about achieving numbers. We're going to measure your blood pressure. We're going to give you a drug. We're going to measure your blood pressure after you've taken it for a while, and we're going to see if that drug was effective. Now, we can do the same thing with herbs. We can take your blood pressure. We can have you working with the herbs that will improve the effectiveness of the cardiovascular system. And we can see, usually within 6 to 8 weeks, a lowering of high blood pressure. But it's not because the herb forced your body to lower blood pressure. It's because the herb improved the functioning of the body. And so now your blood pressure is lower as a consequence of your being healthier. When I first started teaching herbal medicine back in the early 70s, I thought that I would teach the 4 people who were interested in herbal medicine, and then I would go back to teaching about bread baking. It never occurred to me that more and more and more people would become interested in herbal medicine. Of course, in the 70s, we were still in our romantic love affair with drugs, and we truly thought that we would eradicate all disease with the use of drugs. As the years have passed, as the decades have passed, we are more and more beginning to understand that drugs are not the answer to everything. Drugs certainly have their place. My grandfather died of diabetes. He did not have any insulin available to him. How wonderful that we have insulin available now. There's certainly some drugs that are extremely useful for people, but the vast majority of drugs that people are using, we would find that they would be healthier if they used herbs rather than those drugs. And again, not that I'm saying that the herb is a drug with a green coat on. I am saying that the herb is quite different. Let me say, however, that still the vast majority of our drugs are made from herbs. And that process is a process of extracting a particular constituent from the plant, then concentrating that constituent, and then purifying that so that we have only one constituent from the plant rather than this lavish symphony of different things that the whole plant can do. One of the wonderful things about growing older and being 70 is that you are not over the hill, but you're on the hill, and you can look back over your life. And as I look back over my life, I see that I've had 3 very good ideas over my life. One of those ideas I call the 3 traditions of healing. The scientific tradition, which measures and fixes. The heroic tradition, which balances and cleanses. And the wise woman tradition, which nourishes wholeness. I am the voice of the wise woman tradition, bringing this ancient wisdom of nourishing ourselves to wholeness, rather than trying to achieve the impossible. We cannot ever be balanced, and we cannot ever be clean. Those, in fact, only occur when we're dead or just about to be dead, so they're not things that promote life. And of course, we don't want to be fixed, because that's good for machines, but it's not good for living people. So the wise woman tradition, which nourishes wholeness, and that's one of my very good ideas. I talk about it in my green book, Healing Wise. My second very good idea is called the 7 medicines, or the 6 steps of healing. You might wonder how 7 and 6 could be the same, but when it's the 6 steps of healing, I start with step 0, do nothing. Step 1, collect information. Step 2, engage the energy. Step 3, nourish and tonify. Step 4, stimulate and sedate. Step 5, use drugs. And step 6, break and enter. My other books are based on this. So I have a book about childbearing. I have a book about breast health. I have a book about menopause. And I have a book for all of us about everything below the belt. New menopausal years, The Wise Woman Way. Breast cancer, breast health, The Wise Woman Way. Wise Woman Herbal for the childbearing year. And down there, sexual and reproductive health for men and women, The Wise Woman Way. So these books are problem-oriented. You have prostate enlargement, you have PMS, you have a problem that you're dealing with. You want to get pregnant and you can't get pregnant. There's a lump in your breast. And we look at those problems in this pattern of the 6 steps of healing. So that the first thing that we do is we do nothing, which is not ignoring the problem, but going into quiet, going into meditation, sleeping a few extra hours, really giving ourselves the rest that we need. I also call it serenity medicine. And then we move into information, story medicine. What kind of stories do we have about this? And then the energy medicine. All right, engage the energy. They're also called mind medicine, placebo medicine, and a lot of different names. Nourish and tonify, of course, is lifestyle medicine. How are you exercising? What are you eating? We're looking at all of these things and how they relate to your particular problem. There's a great divide there because these four medicines, serenity medicine, story medicine, energy medicine, and lifestyle medicine, they build health. Whether they resolve your problem or not, you're going to be healthier if you do these things. Then the last three medicines, which are alternative medicine, stimulate, sedate, pharmaceutical medicine, use drugs, and high-tech medicine, break and enter. These can restore health, but they also injure health at the same time. So when we are engaged in surgery, drugs, or alternative medicine, we know that we need to return to the previous four medicines, and that's our goal, is to move back over that great divide. And my books then help you by laying out all of this. People say, are they herbals? They say, well, yes, they're herbals, but I also tell you what drugs are used for this condition, what surgery is used for this condition, what the side effects of those drugs and that surgery is. Or as a surgeon said to me, people believe that surgery will be a cure, but it never is, because we always damage something when we do the surgery. Once you have surgery, you will probably be coming back for more surgery for the rest of your life. By using these 7 medicines, we find a way to move ourselves out of this, going back for surgery for the rest of our lives. We find a way to move ourselves out of this, taking a drug to deal with the side effects of the previous drug. We find ourselves not needing to rely on a chiropractor or an acupuncturist or even an herbalist for our day-to-day health, but to have those things for the times when we do need them, for the acute or the chronic difficulties. So the 6 steps of healing, the 7 medicines, that's a really good idea, and it's in all of my books. And my third good idea is drink nourishing herbal infusions. I have a YouTube channel, and I hope you come and visit me at my YouTube channel. There's over 225 YouTubes there where you can see me go right out, identify plants, harvest those plants, and prepare them. And you can follow along. I'm with my granddaughter. She starts being with me as soon as she can walk. She's about 9 or 10 months old, and she's helping us pick dandelions. She's 8 now, and she's really knows a lot about the plants and how to work with them. And you can see her growing up. You can work right with us to do these things. And part of my YouTube channel talks about these nourishing herbal infusions, which are one of the mainstays of what I do and what I like to give to people, because we want so much to be healthy. And it's so confusing for many of us to know, how do we get to be healthy? And I say, all I want you to do is to take 1 ounce of dried stinging nettle, put it in a quart jar, fill that jar right up to the top with boiling water, screw a lid on it, and go to sleep. Let it sit on the counter all night. Next morning, strain it out, squeeze the herb to get all the good out of it, and put it in your compost or fling it out on the lawn, and then that liquid is what you're going to drink. Refrigerate it, because it's very high protein and it will spoil if left at room temperature. And over the course of the next 24 to 48 hours, drink that nourishing herbal infusion. Tens of thousands of people are now drinking nourishing herbal infusions that they make themselves from herbs that they buy or from herbs that they harvest and dry themselves. Either way is perfectly fine. I drink a quart of nourishing herbal infusion a day, and none of us have to take any supplements of any kind, because the nourishing herbal infusions are loaded with minerals, vitamins, proteins, polyphenols, all kinds of active plant constituents that don't just help us regain health, they help us maintain health. Herbal medicine is people's medicine. It's the medicine that grows right outside your door. I hope, if you're interested, that our conversation will continue on, because I have so much to share with you. Visit me at susanweed.com, and there's over 5,000 pages of free information there. You'll also find that I have a blog talk show. You can find information about that at my Facebook page, and that's every Tuesday evening, where I pick up people's calls and do whatever I can to help them with their individual problems. There's no charge at all for the service, because the apprentices listen in, and it's part of the apprentice training. So come and visit me online. Come to the Catskill Mountains in the Hudson River Valley, my little farm in Woodstock, and come and make a wild salad with me. Come and apprentice with me. I have many, many ways for you to study, for you to learn. One of my favorite ways is my correspondence courses. And once you enroll as a correspondence course student, you're a student forever. Each correspondence course student gets 3 hours of direct time with me by writing, by telephone, and a discount on classes as well. Not to even mention their correspondence course, which comes with books, audiovisual materials, and a host of other things. I want you to feel confident and good knowing that green blessings surround you. Thank you so much for giving me your attention today.